So it's a great pleasure for me here for being here to meet you today. I will talk to you about many things about manufacturing. So I hope that will be interesting for you. That's a point of view, an Oracle point of view, and my point of view of what's happening in manufacturing and what we can do. So as Patricia said, I'm in charge of the manufacturing and automotive sector and Industry 4.0 at Oracle. So leading the strategy of Oracle on those topics. So working on the product roadmap, go-to-market strategy, and also what visioning, by the way. So what is the ecosystem that we need to set up about manufacturing and how we have to work with the ecosystem. So let me go through different key topics. So the first thing is what we see in manufacturing, that we have four big challenges and four big topic of transformation in manufacturing. The first one is clearly what we are calling the smart manufacturing. So smart manufacturing is really rethinking the way we are producing, rethinking what kind of technology that we would use to design and to build some new products. And we have a lot of innovation around this topic. And that's one driver of transformation, rethinking the way we are producing, including some point about short cycle, about circular economy, about what we are calling the micro factories. I will talk about that later, but it's a very interesting topic about transforming manufacturing. The second big topic is about innovation. There is a huge request from the market to clearly change the way we are innovating in a company, and the part of innovation into the company revenue, and the pace of innovation and associated to that, the pace of innovation, of course, is very important. There is a big pressure from the market to reduce the pace of innovation, to accelerate the pace of innovation and reduce the time to innovate, and changing the way we are innovating. The third key topic is business model, for many reasons. But the main reason is coming from the customer experience. We know that now the customers are requesting to have a better experience with their suppliers, and for that, the manufacturers, they have to rethink their business model, or at least they have to extend or enrich their existing business models. It means that just doing manufacturing and producing product is clearly not enough right now. Its service is also a big part of activities, and changing the business model, modifying the business model is really key for that. And the last big point is globalization, very impacted by the COVID-19, but also in the past, that was already a very complex topic, with a lot of change in the last 10 years or 5 years about capability to globalize the activity of the supply chain and to redirect the supply chain across the world, either in terms of inbound and outbound. So a lot of evolution in this. So the globalization and localization, it's a very key topic for manufacturers, and they have to be much more flexible, much more agile, and rethink their way to globalize their activity. And new technologies are very interesting to address those points of transformation. That's the main key transformation point. So when we drill down into much more detail of those transformation, we extracted from Oracle, we extracted 8 key topics. The first one is being able to have a different operational efficiency, or at least to improve the operational resiliency with much more remote working or connected working. And that's something that have been, of course, accelerated with the COVID-19, but it was already there. And we see that it's a very important trend for all the manufacturers to really think about how to work remotely and how to maintain the operational resiliency by doing remote working or connected working. The second key topic is as well about financial forecasting and forecasting in general, not only financial, and how to move from a regular forecasting to a continuous forecasting. So that's one of the big change, making sure that we can do continuous forecasting and that you can still continue at every time of the day, every day, see the future of your company, what will happen in the future, it's really key, and not having gap in terms of accuracy of data. So that's one thing about the continuous forecasting. But the other thing of the forecasting as well is the connected forecasting, making sure that when you are doing a projection of the future, you need to get real-time information to do this forecasting. So the connected forecasting is a very, very important point. Scenario planning, it's moving to a what-if scenario and making sure that you have more and more capability about doing what-if scenario on every topic that you have in a company, having different scenario of future and this different scenario of best practices or best action that you have to do. And of course, in real time, being able to react very quickly to a different situation and having choice into what could be your actions for a specific situation. The fourth one is real-time visibility. We know that we are living in a very complex world, and this complex world is requesting to have a much more holistic visibility of what's happening with your colleagues, with your subsidiaries if you are in a company, with your factories across the world. So you need to have a complete vision of what you are doing and not anymore a narrow vision of what you are doing. So this visibility is key, and it's very key for many manufacturers right now. Agile manufacturing, it's also a very important point, being able to adapt yourself against external events, against different change internal as well. So being able to react very quickly and to change your way to work and your best practices based on external situation and internal situation, it's really key as well. I mentioned that with the business model, so connected product, connected services. It's also a big evolution in terms of market. A lot of customers are requesting to be much more connected with their product or much more connected with their suppliers in terms of service as well, after sales service. So it's important to think about service and product. And in this, the very important point as well is when we think about connected service and connected product, means that most of the case you have to redesign as well your product and redesign your services activity. So being connected is not just connecting a product or not just connecting a service. It's a full set of new capabilities. It's a full set of new customer relationship. So it's a full set of services, of activities that you will have with your customers. So it's not just connecting, but it's really changing all the best practices and all the practices around being connected. The supply chain, of course, has to be much more real-time and flexible. We had in the last years many events that impacted the supply chain between the shortage of electronic components in the recent months to the Fukushima tsunami that completely changed the supply chain for the automotive, or even I don't remember how to say that, but the volcano in Ireland that's impacted a lot the transportation around the world, but also some big change when we had the evolution in terms of tariff for the movement across the world with the previous election in US. So a lot of change, and by the way, at the end, we need to be very able in terms of supply chain. And of course, I already mentioned that the product innovation, being able to be much more fast in terms of innovation. So what's happening in the reality? So the key transformation that we see on the market is clearly the fact that most of the customers really need to have this visibility, and in this visibility we can explain that into two key topics. The first one is digital twin, and the other one is digital thread. Digital twin being able to bring information from the real life, and digital thread is sharing information across the different historical silo of the company, or sharing information about the different line of businesses. And we have many customers that are doing this journey about breaking silos in their company to really improve their way to work with the market and their way to work with their customers, and also, of course, improving their cost. The second key topic is personalized manufacturing. So changing the way to do manufacturing, but also changing the way they are proposing the manufacturing activity to their customers. So you see some few examples there. The first is L'Oreal that built where they are calling a smart little factory where you can have your skincare product that is built directly in the shopping mall. So you can build your skincare product directly in the shopping mall. And at the end, they have a 3-layer factory approach with one machine that can be installed in a shopping mall, that building a skincare product with a real capability of a real manufacturing. So it means that quality management, recipes management, so everything that you have in a factory, but it's small in a small place. They have a second layer of smart little factory that they are able to deploy in distribution centers. And they have, of course, their third layer of manufacturing, which is the big manufacturing, the big factory that they still have in the different locations around the world, many in China, but not only. And the big question for them is how to synchronize those 3 manufacturing capabilities across the customer demand. So if the customer wants to have a product immediately in a shopping mall, he can go there. But if he wants to order exactly the same product with the same recipes on the e-commerce, depending of where he is, it can be delivered directly with a factory which is in the distribution center, or a big factory that can be placed in China, depending of how much you want to spend for the same product and where he is located and how much he is able to wait for the transportation and for the cost of the transportation about the product. So it means that it's at the end, for the same product, it's a multi-dimensional manufacturing strategy. So that completely changing the way to do manufacturing. It's not anymore a big factory which is delivering everywhere in the world. It's having different type of factory placed around the world that can answer to different requests from customers. So that's one example with L'Oreal, but we have the same example with the orange car that you can see in the bottom. There are two examples with that. Gazelle Tech, it's a French car maker, which is building electric car directly in a container. So you can build the car. They are building the car in a container, and they can build the full car at the same pace of you have in global automotive manufacturing, but in a container. So that's very funny. And they are placing the container close to the customer. So they can do the production, but they can do the maintenance as well in the same container. And they can do the refurbishment of the car. So they are already placing the factory close to the customer. And there is something similar in US, which is named, I forgot the name. I will find the name. In US, but for the small bus, for instance, they are able to build a small bus into in one 3D printer. So you have the one 3D printer which is printing the bus entirely, and they can do that. They can place their 3D printer almost everywhere in the world, depending on the request of the customer. And in a small size, you have Adidas. You will see a video just after with Carbon 3D. That is printing the Adidas sole, so the shoe sole, directly in the 3D printer where it is needed. So it means that when you need an Adidas shoe, if you go to a specific shop, they can take a design of your feet, and based on that, they will be able to print the sole directly based on your feet, and your request as well for having the shoes, depending of what you want to do with the shoes. So, and they can do that directly on the fly, directly in the shops. And the other example is Michelin, but Michelin is a service transformation. It's counterintuitive because at the end they are selling tires per services, per kilometers. So it means that their strategy in this business is to sell less tires to their customers, which can be counterintuitive based on their historical business, which is much more selling gums and selling more tires to their customers. So in this case, they are selling less tires. They are trying to improve the longevity and the life cycle of the tires with their customers. But on top of that, they are improving their relationship with the customers, and they are selling some services around the tires to maintain the life cycle of the tires and it's much more a continuous relationship with the customers and continuous margin with the customer, instead selling just the product. So that's some few examples, and in the bottom you have other examples like autonomous factory. So everybody knows the Tesla manufacturing, but to be honest, it's not the only one that can do that. Nexen tires, for instance, they have a full autonomous factory for manufacturing tires. So if you go to the web, you can find a video of the Nexen tire factory based in South Korea, and you will see that they have a fully autonomous factory. And we are currently starting to see some on the market, some autonomous, completely autonomous factory, using, of course, artificial intelligence, but not only. And we are starting to see those kind of cases. So it's usually some new factories. It's very rarely some existing factory, but even there for Nexen, it was not a new factory. It was an upgrade of the existing factory. So we see more and more those kind of case. And the other one is remote working. Remote working on even so we know the remote working with Zoom and the for the blue collar, for the white collar, but we can see as well more and more capability to do as well remote working for the blue collar. And this is, for instance, what we are doing with Noble Plastic, that is controlling remotely their robots for their customers. So it means that when a customer is requesting an upgrade or a new calibration of the robot, or redefine the behavior of the robot based on the specific needs, they can call Noble Plastic, and Noble Plastic is able to remotely reconfigure the robot and to reset up the robot for a new process. So it means that there is no need to bring a technician close to the robot to reconfigure the robot and to redesign the program of the robot for a new process. So they are doing everything remotely with their customers, which is also a very big evolution. And at the end, we see as well that in the future we will have a lot of evolution in terms of markets, and also in terms of complexity. We know that we will have a lot of complexity, new complexity, and we'll go to a kind of autonomous approach. Customer order. So that's some case that we have, by the way, even in Europe. There is a kitchen manufacturer who is connecting directly the customer order from the customer kitchen configuration on the website directly to the factory. So it means that there is no people in the middle that is redesigning the kitchen. You are just defining your kitchen, and your kitchen is directly going to order is directly going to the factory, and it's produced directly by the machine. So it's a full seamless process from the order to the factory and to the delivery, of course. And we will see more and more capability around this for the traceability, for the delivery, for the maintenance, and but also for the manufacturing as well, with a lot of micro factory that we will have in the future. Something that is happening, by the way, in the spare part business with the 3D printer, because we know that in the 3D printer we'll have more and more capabilities. And by the way, in Europe, there is a new regulation that will come in the next years to force every suppliers or every manufacturers to provide to their customers their parts, the 3D design of the parts, to let the customer being able to print the parts directly on the 3D printer. So it means that it should be a choice. If the part is not produced anymore in the manufacturing plant, they must be able to provide the design of the part to their customers, and the customers must be able to use that to print by themselves the same part on the 3D printer. So that's a big change of manufacturing. So let me show you an example of what we are doing with Carbon 3D.
Welcome to Carbon. We're a technology company changing the way the world makes things, specifically 3D printed things. We didn't start out trying to change manufacturing forever. We didn't? No, we didn't. We started with the simple goal of making 3D printed parts better.
It's 25 to 100 times faster, which is game-changing.
But we quickly realized that with our combination of technology and materials, we could make real parts with mechanical properties and surface finishes that make injection molded plastics obsolete by comparison. Embracing the idea that speed to production isn't an obstacle anymore. is the only way forward. And our partners share our enthusiasm for reinventing the rules. Partners who are manufacturing at scale, making millions of real products.
Like us.
Yeah, like you. In partnership with Adidas, we've created a midsole that shouldn't exist so that they can make a shoe that shouldn't exist. Light, super flexible, highly durable, and printed straight from liquid. A marvel of design and function, this shoe defies logic. And whether you want to make 1 or 1 million, this is true, customizable, and on-demand mass manufacturing. This is not a publicity stunt. This is a revolution. And we're just getting started. Stop prototyping, start producing.
So that's very marketing, but at the end, it's not only marketing because it's already on the market. So it's really the trend that we have right now. It's in manufacturing is ready to accelerate the go-to-market process and accelerate the production process. And the 3D printing mass manufacturing, of course, it's not there for everything, but we are starting to see it in many topics right now. And you can imagine that it's completely changing the way to manage the manufacturing activity as well. It means it's not just an evolution of product and production process, of course, and technology, but it's also the production process. All the production activity is completely changing, and the network for manufacturing is completely changing. The supply chain is changing. So many things are changing. So the question for the manufacturer behind this is that how to continue to maintain, or at least to address the existing challenges that they have in their core business. So industrialization, efficiency, performance, customer safety, employee safety, quality of product, innovation, maintenance, scalability, and so on, and profitability, of course. But they also have to address many other new topics. Sustainability is one. Environmental impact is key right now for many manufacturers. They don't have any choice to manage the CO2 emission and having traceability about their gas emission or the CO2. Social responsibility is a key point, but also in the manufacturing side, the personalized manufacturing is becoming key for many manufacturers. The customer experience is becoming key. The traceability of their product is key. And also the new supply chain. So the short cycle, the circular economy they must be able to manage that. The recycling process, they must be able to manage that. The mixed manufacturing as well they must be able to manage this mixed manufacturing into one place, because it's not anymore doing make to stock, but it's mixing make to stock, make to order, configure to order, assemble to order, potentially engineering to order, depending on the request. But at least for sure, make to stock, make to order, and configure to order has to be able into the same manufacturing entity. They must be able to manage those kind of stuff. And of course, new trends like micro factory or autonomous factory. Same for the manufacturing process. They potentially have to manage in the same place discrete and process manufacturing, and as well managing manufacturing, service, and as a service. So it means that selling their product as a service into one place. And of course, sharing the back office activity across those two different type of activity. So that's a lot of new challenges that the manufacturers have to manage. And that's where the Industry 4.0 is coming. The Industry 4.0 is really bringing this new capability to bring some intelligence. The first, the second, and the third brought some interesting technology. So the first was a steam, and every steps of industrial revolution brought an innovation and a set of innovation that completely changed the way to work and the way that the manufacturers are managing their activities. And you can see there that in the first one, we got scalable individual work automation. The second one was much more to have collaborative and collective manufacturing work. The third is not only industrial, but it's industrial and digital and business processes as well, because we had a new automation in the manufacturing activity, but we also have a lot of automation into the business processes. First with the mainframe for manufacturing planning and those kind of stuff, but after we got the ERP that completely automates the financial activities, the supply chain, the manufacturing activities, the planning activities. And the question right now is how to break the silos that we generated during the third industrial revolution to are going to a much more collective and much more global intelligence that we may have for the manufacturers. And that's coming from the fact that we were able in the last 10 years to accelerate, to really have an exponential acceleration of capability of computing power, of data collection and connectivity. And that's completely changed the way we are able to manipulate data and to get insight from data to create this collective intelligence. And you can see there that I'm not talking about artificial intelligence, but I'm talking about augmented intelligence, because it's not just artificial intelligence, it's how to use the artificial intelligence with the human intelligence and making sure that they are working together correctly and to create this augmented intelligence for companies. So for that, if you want to create this augmented intelligence, there are three key steps that you need to set up. The first one, I already mentioned that, but that's a digital, what we are calling the digital thread, breaking the silos across the company. You cannot have any more silos. If the manufacturing don't know what the innovation is doing or what the service is doing, that will not work. If the innovation don't know what the logistic and the service is doing or the financial is doing, that will not work as well. So the main key point is making sure that every piece, every line of business in the company is able to know what the others are doing and is able to get the same information and to work on exactly the same information that the others are doing. And also potentially sharing some tools that they can use all together in terms of emerging technologies, but not only. So that's the first thing, making sure that they are sharing the same information and the same best practices and the same processes. And it's of course it's much easier to do that in the small company than in the big, but it's a transformation. It's a transformation of the market. The second big thing is that what we are calling the digital twin. The digital twin is not just bringing information, a three-dimensional visualization of your product, but it's also bringing information from the field to your business processes and making it intelligent or really doing a real connection between the real behavior of what you have on the reality, on the real world, with what you expected from the business processes, what you're expecting in the virtual world. Because every business processes is a kind of virtual world. When you are defining the future of the manufacturing planning, for instance, it's a pure virtual world. When you are defining your supply chain process in your transportation system, it's a pure virtual world. But the reality is that you have trucks, which is going on the road, and when the trucks has an engine brake or a failure in some place, that's the real world. And the virtual world the transportation system has to be aware about what's happening in the real world to be able to take some decision and to potentially readapt the best practices that you have in the virtual world. So the digital twin, again, it's not just what we see in historically the three-dimensional visualization of your product, but it's really creating any type of connection from the physical world to the virtual world, whatever the business process is. Again, it could be financial, could be project management, could be engineering, could be manufacturing, supply chain, maintenance, compliance, any type of processes can be connected to the physical world. And the third key topic, which is very key for me, is artificial intelligence. You need to make sure that in every solution that you are using right now, it has to be artificial intelligence ready. There are many things that we can do with artificial intelligence. You can see some examples there. So we can detect situation, predict the future, forecast the future, get insight, correlate information, recognize a specific situation or phase or any type of stuff that we can recognize, analyze, get intent, get some feelings, and then automate as well. But for that, it has to be embedded in your platform. Your platform must be able to use those type of artificial intelligence to simplify the life of the business people. So how to move step by step? The first thing is making sure that you have a platform. And when we talk about, that's a very important point for me, when we talk about cloud, and that's a very important point because in manufacturing, we see We still see many people that are reluctant to go to the cloud. But at the end, the cloud is what? The cloud is the new generation of IT solution on the market. It's a shift in terms of digital technology. It's not a shift for the rest of the world. It's the industries. It's first of all a shift of the digital market. So it means that if you look about the market right now, almost 80% and even more of the newcomers and IT and developers, digital solution developers that we have on the market, knows only to build solution on the cloud. They don't know how to build solution on the on-prem. What is a client server or mainframe? They don't know anymore. They know how to develop solution in the cloud environment. So the cloud is not just hosting solutions, but it's a new generation of solution for the market in terms of IT solutions. So it means that we can imagine that when we have 80% or even more of the people that knows only how to build innovation and solution on the cloud, you can imagine very quickly that most of the innovations will come from the cloud in the next years, just by the mass, just by knowing that the new guys, the people will be much more working on the cloud instead of the other technology. So that's one thing. The second thing is that cloud is not just hosting. It's not hosting. It's not putting that on the data center of a trusted provider. As I said, it's a new generation of way to build solutions. And one example of this is that what Oracle is doing, but we have now on the market some others that are doing something similar. We can deploy our cloud into the data center of our customers. So it means that if a customer wants to have the Oracle cloud in his shop floor, manufacturing shop floor, or in his data center, they can use our cloud directly on their own network, on their own data center. So it means that it's clearly not hosted by us. It's just a new generation of technology that can be deployed if they want in their own data center. So it means that that's where we can address as well some specific regulation or specific countries or specific customers or defense customers, for instance, that want to keep their data on their own environment. So that's a second part of the cloud, and it's not, of course, it's not applicable for every cloud on the market, but the cloud is clearly that, being able to do that. And the third key topic of the cloud is really being able to have innovation, a constant innovation compared to the upgrade that we had in the past. It's that there is no upgrade anymore. So it means that behind the fact that there is no upgrade is that there is a continuous innovation. And this continuous innovation is coming from the community of users of the cloud solution. So it means that right now, when you are selecting a solution for manufacturing, for instance, you are using the innovation coming from all the manufacturers that are using the same platform. And all the best practices of this community is available for us every quarter. So every quarter we are bringing some innovation in the same subscription. So it's included in your subscription, but all the best practices coming from the others. So that's also a very big change in terms of behaviors, because we are bringing the intelligence of the community of the users that are using the same platform, and we are providing this intelligence on those innovation constantly to the manufacturers or to the people that are using the platform. It's already a community approach. So that's for me a very important point. The other thing that when we talk about AI, the AI has to be connected to two things. First, it has to be connected to data. And AI cannot work without any data. So you need to have a very good data for managing the AI. And it has to be connected to the action as well. If an AI is just there to analyze and there is no connection with the actions, I would say that the AI is useless. So the really big purpose is to make sure that the AI is integrated with the actions, with business applications, and with the data for the inbound activities. And in real time. So in real time, not using the data in real time, but at least making sure that the AI is using accurate data coming from the reality. Otherwise, it's not very interesting. But for doing that, you need to have a platform. So platform, what does it mean? That means that you need to have a way to have a good capability of computing power. a good capability of storage as well, because you need to move to use more and more data. But as well, this platform has to be very highly secure. Otherwise, if it's not secure by design, you can take a lot of risk, because your data, you are taking the risk to not having data that are trustable for doing your business and executing what you want to execute, including the AI. And of course, we are doing a lot of investment in terms of clean cloud to have to respect as well the evolution in terms of sustainability and environmental impact. For instance, at Oracle, we have 100% of our data center in Europe are using renewable energy. So that's a very big investment as well in this. So the second thing is making sure that you have a layer for the data, managing the data. As I said, we need to capture the data. So that's very important, being able to get the data from the reality. So IoT data, but any type of data coming from the reality. You need to have a platform that is able to manage this data and to analyze this data. So to structure the data and to provide a data science that can use this data and extract insight from those data. Could be, again, KPIs, could be analytics, or could be even specific artificial intelligence, in this case, for predictive maintenance and predictive failure. But having those kind of environment for manipulating the data is really key. Another layer which is very important as well is to be able to create your own solution, digital solutions. That's a very important point, because when you are transforming your business in terms of digital solution, you need to build, everything is not there. So you need to be able to build your own digital capabilities for your customers, for your employees, for your partners, with a partner portal, with a mobile application for your customers, or with a mobile application for your employees, whatever the stuff. But at the end, you must be able to develop your own capabilities, to develop your own solution. And these digital capabilities must be connected to all the other layers. So it must be connected to the same data that you are using for running your business. It must be secure by design. Must be able to use your computing power, and as well must be able to use your business applications. Because if you are providing a mobile application to your customer, it's not a standalone application. It would be an application which will be connected to the quality, which will be connected to your supply chain, potentially connected to your manufacturing, potentially connected to your finance, but it must be, or your traceability. But at the end, it has to be connected. So at the end, you need to have as well business applications that are enough open with APIs to be connected to the rest, and making sure that you can leverage the rest in your business applications in a seamless way. So that's the type of architecture that is our key for moving to the digital transformation. And of course, managing an ecosystem. Managing an ecosystem means being able to work with startups, being able to work with big companies, being able to work with industrial equipment manufacturers for the manufacturing, and also other cloud provider, because all of that is an ecosystem. So you need to be able to work with partners that can really open you to an ecosystem of partners, and not place you in a space where you cannot evaluate outside of the space where you are. So that's a very important point. So let's come back to the AI. Why do we need AI? I think it's a very important point for me, is that we need AI because the world is becoming very, very complex right now. And if we look at the right side here, the time to take a decision is going much faster right now. So you don't have too much time. But at the same time, I don't know if you never read this book, I think that you can read it. It's a very nice book about thinking fast and thinking slow. And the point there is that if we want to go fast, we are doing error, because most of the case is not a scientific analysis of the situation. And if we want to have a scientific analysis of a specific situation, it takes time, and we don't have the time. So that's where the AI is very valuable, to simplify the life between complexity and the time to take a decision. And that's where we think that in terms of AI, we need to think about 5 key topics around AI, making that sustainable, making sure that the human can take a decision which is sustainable today and for the future. Safer because the human has to take a situation and being comfortable with the decision that he's taking. Social because it needs to use the collaborative intelligence with the other people in the company and the other intelligence that are around him. Smarter because it needs to use this intelligence. So it means that when you are using an AI, you are using the intelligence of the person to take the decision as well. So he's not able to understand the insight that is given by the AI. It's useless. So it means that when the AI has to be adapted as well to the people that are using the AI. If you are not adapting the AI outcomes to the people that are using it, it's useless because it will not be very smarter. And of course, simple because the people have to use a very simple way to use AI. And so at the end, leveraging human and artificial intelligence in a scalable way, managing uncertainty and being able to manage complex problems. 3 types of AI that we see at Oracle. An AI which is an AI that you are selecting, like Alexa. You know that there is an AI behind Alexa, but you are deciding to use it for a specific purpose. Hidden AI, you don't know that it's there, but you will use it. And of course, the last one is an environment where you can build your own artificial intelligence. I would say that most of the people are starting from there, but that's probably not the place where you have to start, because this is the most complex place where to start to do AI. The 2 other ones are already very efficient, and you can do already many things with a pre-built AI and hidden AI to improve your business activity. Of course, you can build your own AI, but before building your own AI, I think that you can think about using the existing one. And at Oracle, we are splitting that across 3 key topics, what we are calling ready to go, ready to work, and ready to build. So let's go very quickly there because I will move forward because I know that we are running out of time after. First, the AI can be everywhere. So also in terms of deployment of AI, if you look about manufacturing, we can have AI in many layers. And the point is there that those AIs has to be synchronized. Well, that's very important to making sure that there is a connection between those AI. So you can do that at the low level. A robot can be driven by an AI, like Mitsubishi, for instance. They have an AI to compensate the external temperature to improve the precision of the robot. But at Oracle, we have the same for the data management, for instance. On top of that, you can have AI for doing quality, predictive failure, predictive maintenance. You can have AI for the analyzing the performance of a production line, for anomaly detection. And then you can use AI for best operation, for planning, and then for the rest of the collaboration in the company. So there are many AIs that you can use in different places. The question of this is when you are thinking about artificial intelligence, first, you need to be able to implement that in many places. Secondly, you need to think about this as a tool that you can use to execute your day-to-day job in a better way. And that can be deployed everywhere as well, on the edge, in the cloud, in the proximity as well, in your own data center. It's just a question of where do you have the computing power that you need to process the data that you have. And that's a very important point, because at the end, it's and you have to know as well that in the AI, most of the AI, not every AI, but in most of the AI, you have 2 processes, one which is the learning process and the other one which is the execution process. So you can also split your processes in terms of AI to place them at the right place where you have the capability to deliver the best. It means that most of the case, the training has to be done on the cloud, on the big data center, and the execution can be done on the edge or on the proximity intelligence if you want. But that's very important to identify where you want to execute that. And most of the case, it cannot be executed only on one place, because it has to be executed in multiple places. So thinking about AI just on the edge doesn't really make sense. Most of the case, thinking about every AI in the cloud doesn't really make sense as well. So it has to be a spread where it is the best to be executed. So some few examples of AI. So just there, the AI, embedded AI, for instance, we have many embedded AI for the ERP, finance, customer experience, supply chain. there are many AI that can really help the people to take a best decision in their day-to-day, to find the right suppliers, to identify suppliers' failure, to identify the right candidate for a job, for defining the future of your financial planning. So those kind of stuff. There are many AIs that are embedded in your day-to-day application. So you can see there some example, but I will go there. I will share with you the presentation. Then you have AIs that are autonomous AI. So for instance, here it's autonomous database or autonomous Linux. So you don't have to take care about what is AI there. It's just that the fact that our technology is embedding AI to execute, to improve the technology in itself. So it's just for us. It's that database. We don't need any people to manage the database. So it's fully automated. Like a robot is fully automated. And then the last one is a full data science platform where you can have many tools to build your own AI and to manipulate your own data to build your own AI. And just one example there, it's a reel, positioning the cable on the reel for manufacturing, where we have to place the cable correctly on the reel. And for that, we are using an AI that can learn from the position of the cable, learn from the error, and create some patterns of best practices that we can execute on an arm robot, which is replacing the human to position the cable on the reel. And the architecture is clearly an architecture about from the robot to the cloud for a training in the cloud and for an execution on the edge. And we have the same for the quality, for instance, quality management with the quality vision monitoring that can be used for many kind of topics. Interesting topic about who is using it. Many customers are using it, and that's not a question of size of customer. We can have very small customer to a very large customer, and even there, it's not so much larger that we have much larger than that. But we can start with a very small customer. So, for instance, Alcor, which is a European company, is a wheel manufacturer, a small wheel manufacturer. They only have 140 employees and 2 factories, and even them, they are able to use that and transform their business. And I would say that potentially this is them that they are doing the most, that they are getting the most quickest value from this transformation, because they are changing very quickly what they are doing. And by using it, they are able to have a real-time information about their inventory, real-time information, and they can very quickly break the silos. That's the point. When you are going to a big company, breaking the silos is very complicated. But when you are going to those such of factories of manufacturing companies, that's going very fast. And we can very quickly apply that to those factories. That's also the value of the cloud. It's cheaper than having an on-prem solution. So that's very affordable for those kind of companies. So let's listen very quickly what Precision Group is saying about what they did.
Right now, we have much more visibility of our order to cash cycle as a whole. We can have real-time visibility on the shop floor. From day one, we are able to use everything on mobile, like all those tricky little dashboards which are available in the system, which is quite impressive. By having the system right now, we achieve more efficiency in terms of by having more visibility into the shop floor, by having visibility into our inventory organization so that we don't go out of stock for our key customers. That's something which is very key for a business like us to sustain.
The interesting point there is that every digital transformation that we have for a small company is really related to the customer relationship. So it's inventory, it's managing the activities, but it's also connected to the customer relationship. Because the connection between what they are doing in the manufacturing and the customer is very direct. So they can really improve very quickly their customer relationship, and that's improving their business very quickly. The good thing is that with Precision Group, which is the company coming from in Dubai, when we did the COVID-19, when the COVID-19 came, we were just finishing the transformation for them just 2 months before the COVID-19 crisis. And they were able to shift to a complete remote working, except of course the operator that they had in the shop floor. But for all the rest of the person, including the supply chain, including the inventory manager and so on, everybody were able to work remotely. And the good thing that they did not lost any business, and then even growth during the COVID-19 while they are doing plastic molding, and they were able to buy a new factory during the COVID-19 period. So it means that they were able to continue to invest. So that's for me the very big shift and a very big difference about a digitally transformed manufacturer to a non-digitally transformed manufacturer. They have much more capability to adapt their business to the market. So very quickly, some few examples. I just will show you very quickly some examples. That's an AI for finance, for instance, or not for finance, for innovation. So finance, so we are connecting wind turbines there. And you can see there, we can detect anomaly in the wind turbines in vibration. So that's out of the box capabilities. So you don't have to build anything, including the AI here for detecting anomaly. You just have to activate anomaly detection on vibration, and it's creating that. And it's connecting that directly with the spare parts, with the parts that you have in the wind turbine. So that can really help to identify which part that you have to work on, which part is impacting the vibration. And if you want to build a new next generation of wind turbine, you can directly integrate that in your next generation of wind turbine. Another example is this one, which is on the quality management. We are using embedded in the platform, the capability to use the AI to correlate any type of information collaboratively across every information that we have around the wind turbine. So the vibrations, but also the maintenance activities, the regions, the customers that are doing that, the maintenance operators that did the job on the every wind turbines, the part numbers that are involved in this. So we have a full vision of everything, every data about the wind turbine, from manufacturing, from engineering, manufacturing to service. And because we have all of that in the same place, we can collaboratively with all the person in the company, investigate why we have issue and how we can address those issues on every steps of the manufacturing activity of the life cycle. So that's an example. We have the same in finance. So, oops, it's not good there. But we have the same in finance in the margin there. I don't know if it will be good. But if I'm doing a financial forecasting, I can take the margin there, request to the system to do a predictive analytics, and it will create automatically some future of the finance activity. And don't know if, let me change that very quickly because the screen is not good. Oops, there. Okay, so let's go there. And the system will go directly, will provide automatically a forecast of the future using artificial intelligence. So removing all the inaccuracy of the historical data to build a model of the future. And it will give a range of different what-if scenario with accuracy of what-if scenario to the CFO to decide what he has to do to define the future of the margin of the company. So that's just from few examples, but I have many examples like this. So this one is a lighthouse factory. So it is a full factory that we built directly controlled by the cloud. So there is nobody involved in it. So we are placing the order, which kind of cube do we want to do, which kind of engraving do we want to do, and we are doing everything, the quality check with AI, the controlling of the robot with AI and cloud solutions, the inventory management, the delivery. So we have a full vision, a full management of the manufacturing process there, even if it's toys instead of industrial machines, but we can do the same with industrial machines. We have the full vision, completely automated and completely managed in one place for everything from manufacturing, order, inventory, maintenance, and even delivery as well, and even scrapping there that we are managing with in one platform. So that's just a few examples, and I can show you many examples of out-of-the-box capabilities right now that we have to deliver a next generation of experience for manufacturing activities, against mixing different type of model activities, whatever the evolution of the manufacturers. Okay, so I will stop there to let some few minutes for the question and answer, and I will of course share later the document, the presentation to you.